Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis. And today we're talking about our favorite producers here at the sprawling campus of Papa Nick's Music. As a quick reminder, when we're talking about our favorites here, we are not, I am not, drop this royal we nonsense, I'm not trying to say that these are the best. I'm not making the argument that my favorite is the best. The argument that I'm making is that this is the music that I really, really like. And so in order for me to include an artist, or in this case, a producer, on my list of top 10 favorites, it has to be based on work that I actually own copies of. I'm limiting myself to what I have in my library. I'm not allowing myself the freedom to pick things that I stream, that I'm familiar with, that I really, really like. If I haven't gone out of my way to purchase it, then I don't really consider it a favorite. So when we're talking about my top 10 favorite producers, what we're talking about is from the work that I have, the CDs I have over there, the vinyl that I have over there, the cassettes that I've got somewhere around here. Who are the producers that I like the most? Cool? Cool. Before we get into this, we've got to talk about the subjectivity notice. We firmly believe here at Papa Nick's Music that there's no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad music. There's only music that I like and music that I don't. And as long as we keep that in mind, this is a wonderful conversation. It's enlightening, it's informative, it's all things happy and good. It goes off the rails real quick as soon as somebody in the conversation starts insisting on being seen as objectively right. No such thing. There is no such thing as an objectively good work of art. Good is in the eye of the beholder. So, as long as we keep that in mind, it's a wonderful conversation. I'm not trying to tell you that these are objectively the best producers. Feel free to disagree with me. I'm not trying to stop conversation. I encourage it. If you disagree, please put that note below, because I would like to have the discussion. It's just don't frame the discussion in terms of being objectively correct. As long as we can avoid that, then it's wonderful. Now, with that done, let's get into this thing. One last thing. Papa Nick's Top 10 series is unofficially sponsored by Schöfferhofer Beer. If you like Hefeweizen beer and grapefruit soda, oh, you'll love Schöfferhofer, because that's good beer. One of these days, they're going to send me some beer, and I'm going to be so happy. Before I get into my top 10, I've got an honorable mention. I almost put a couple 3 up here as honorable mentions. Situations where somebody did something so amazing that I had to pull it out. That I'm not seeing that person as a consistent favorite producer, but boy howdy, on that one album, or on those 2 albums, he really pulled it out. Chip Douglas would be a good example of this, right? Overall, I don't know that I would say he's one of my favorite producers, but oh my God, for him to be able to assemble Headquarters for the Monkees, that was a significant achievement. So I have an honorable mention here, and it is Ben Folds for his work with William Shatner. Billiam Shatner on the album Has Been. I've made no secret of my admiration for this album. I bought it expecting it to be a joke, the way I thought his 60s album, The Transformed Man, was a joke. And this is not a joke. This is an actual honest-to-God good album with good music and good performances, some very good covers, but a lot of really good original music. And the lion's share for the quality here lays directly at the feet, he said, mixing his metaphors, of the producer Ben Folds. Ben Folds did an amazing job here. I'm not going to put him on my top 10 because I don't know that consistently his production is the reason why I like Ben Folds albums. But oh my God, did he knock this one out of the park? It's an amazing achievement, and it deserves attention for that. So, honorable mention, Ben Folds. Okay, let's talk about the top 10 proper. Coming in at number 10. I don't have a whole lot of albums that Arif Mardin produced. Arif? I think it's Arif. But I do have a couple of them, and one of them that is one of my favorite albums is the Bee Gees' Main Course. I love the sound of this thing. I've considered putting Mr. Natural up here because I also love Mr. Natural. My God, these two albums back to back. Oh, fantastic stuff. But I went with Main Course. I think it's a slightly better album. But they're both wonderful, and as much as I like the Bee Gees for their songwriting and for the quality of their voices, it's the sound of this thing that I find the most impressive. So, number 10, Arif Mardin, Bee Gees, Main Course. Number 9, when I first started thinking about doing this, and I, very quickly generated a list of candidates before I went through and actually looked at, perused the entire collection. One of the first names that occurred to me was Ray Davis, because I love the Kinks. And I love the Kinks in large part because of the way they sound and the way that sound developed from the 60s up through the later 80s, which is when, they were recording into the 90s, but I kind of checked out by then. And I love that. I love this music. And I considered holding up Sleepwalker as my example here. But I've only got it on vinyl, and it's easier to deal with the stacks if they're CDs, so I went ahead and pulled out Low Budget. I could just as easily be holding up Give the People What They Want or State of Confusion, Misfits. They're all wonderful albums. From the mid-70s on, I love that stuff. The 60s, I'm more of a fan of the singles rather than the albums, but mid-70s on, I love the Kinks. A large part of the reason why I love the Kinks is I love the way those albums sound, and that is Ray Davis as producer. Coming in at number 8. Everything that I just said about Ray Davis with the Kinks, I could say about Phil Ramone with Billy Joel. Phil Ramone produced a lot of different folks, so he wasn't just doing it with Billy Joel. But I love him for the work that he did with Billy Joel. That span of albums, starting with The Stranger and going through Nylon Curtain, that is an amazing string of albums. They're all classics. Turnstiles was also a classic, but Joel produced that himself. And 52nd Street is always the example I hold up because of the four, it's my favorite. But they're all four fantastic albums, and I dearly love listening to these things. I love the way they sound. I love Phil Ramone produced Billy Joel. I love 52nd Street. Number 8, Phil Ramone. Coming in at number 7, I love David Kirschenbaum. I love the work he did with Joe Jackson. A lot of the albums that he did, I considered holding up Body and Soul because I just really love the way this album sounds. But this is technically produced by Kirschenbaum and Joe Jackson. Excuse me. But I'm going with Look Sharp. This thing sounds fantastic, and David Kirschenbaum and Joe Jackson worked so well together. I like Joe Jackson as producer as well, but I really love the sound of the first few albums. I'm going to go ahead and assume that's David Kirschenbaum. I love Look Sharp. Number 6. I have a little bit of an issue here with number 6. There's no doubt that he belongs on my list, if only because I love the Monkees album Good Times as much as I do. This was produced by Adam Schlesinger. And Adam Schlesinger was an oh my god talented man. Talented songwriter, talented musician, and a very talented producer. It's what I was saying about Chip Douglas earlier. I could just as easily be saying about Adam Schlesinger now. He was able to put this thing together in such a way that I am extremely impressed. So, if only for this one album, he would deserve to be on my list. Problem is, I'm willing to bet he did the bulk of the production for Fountains of Wayne. I don't know for sure. I haven't researched it. I haven't gone back and double checked. But I know even if the production is credited to Fountains of Wayne, I'm pretty sure Adam Schlesinger did the bulk of it. So I love Adam Schlesinger. And like I said, if only for this one album, he belongs on my list. I've got him at number 6. My number 5 producer, I love the albums of Steely Dan. And I've made it clear in previous videos that it's a pain in the ass for me to talk about them because I can't hold up individual albums because I recycled out the individual albums when I got the Citizen Steely Dan box set. So I'm going to hold up Fagen's solo debut, The Nightfly, produced by Gary Katz, who produced the Steely Dan albums. And I love the way this album sounds. I love the way the Steely Dan albums sound, and a lot of that is due to Becker and Fagen. Yes, a lot of it is due to Gary Katz. Good work, Mr. Katz. Love Steely Dan and Donald Fagen. Okay, my number 4. I think from here on there's absolutely nothing in the way of a surprise. I don't know that any of these have been particularly surprising. But there's really nothing in the way of surprise. If you've watched a handful of my videos, you know, for example, I really like ELO. Of course I like ELO, and I love Jeff Lynne. I love him as a songwriter. I love him as a musician. I love him as a singer. And I love him as a producer. And I could have picked any ELO album. And obviously I'm picking out of the blue because I have such great affection for this. I mean, it's a perfect double album. God. That's just an amazing accomplishment. But I could just as easily be talking about Discovery or even, Balance of Power. I mean, they're all fantastic. I love the way Jeff Lynne produces. I love the way his records sound. I love ELO. Number 4, Jeff Lynne. Number 3, contractual obligation. If you're talking about your favorite music, and if you bill yourself as a pop rock fan, then you got to talk about the Beatles. So, yeah. Number 3, George Martin. Yeah, for every obvious reason. It's George Martin, for crying out loud. Of course he's going to be on my list. I don't have him at number 1, but I got him at number 3. Come on. That's not too bad. And I've got Abbey Road because I think this thing is a stunning achievement of splicing tape together for the bulk of side 2. I love this album. Number 3, George Martin. Speaking of the Beatles, not very much. It's not much of a segue, but it'll work. My number 2 is Alan Parsons. I love the Alan Parsons Project. I love the work that Alan Parsons did apart from the project. The albums that he recorded with Al Stewart. I almost did Year of the Cat as my example, but I've got that on vinyl, and I wanted the stack to be a little bit more manageable, so I stuck to CDs. I've got Year of the Cat. I've got Time Passages back there, another great album. The work that he did with Pilot, the work that he did with Ambrosia, the work that he did as an engineer that's got him started into his production career, Dark Side of the Moon, and I love Alan Parsons, and I love all of the Alan Parsons Project albums for the most part. I don't know that I'd hold up Gaudi as an example. I don't much care for Eve, but I think pretty much any of the rest of them would be good. I'm holding up Ammonia Avenue because I'm tired of using Eye in the Sky as my example. But I was either going to do Ammonia Avenue or Return of a Friendly Card today, and I decided to go ahead and go with Ammonia Avenue. But it doesn't matter which one it is. Pyramid, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, I, Robot. Any one of these is going to be fantastic. Vulture Culture, they're all wonderful albums. I love Alan Parsons Project, and I love Alan Parsons as producer. So, number 2. But my number 1 producer, my favorite producer, got to be Brian Wilson. Specifically Pet Sounds, but I could just as easily be holding up the Beach Boys Today. I could just as easily be holding up any of the albums that they recorded in the early to mid '60s. After Brian finally got control of it and started doing fantastic work. I mean, from the get-go, are you kidding me? You know, throw a dart, pick one of those albums, and just listen to it and bask in the glory. I'm picking Pet Sounds because I think this thing is a frickin' masterpiece, a classic work of music that is going to last for hundreds of years. I love Pet Sounds. And I love Brian Wilson. I mean, come on. So, yeah, number one, Brian Wilson, Pet Sounds. And those are my 10 favorite producers. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did I leave anybody off the list that deserves to be there? Did I include somebody on the list that horrors does not deserve to be on that list? Leave that note down below. I always love hearing from you. And it's a conversation that I always love having. Just don't tell me that I'm objectively wrong and we're good. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you click the like button. If you click the like button, go ahead and click the subscribe button while you're down there. It costs absolutely nothing to you, but it means the world to me. So I very much thank you for that. If you do subscribe, click the bell for notifications. The YouTube folks like that, so I appreciate it on their behalf. Thanks again for hanging out with me today, and I hope that the rest of your day is blissful. See you soon.